I've been doing this for 6 years, and like in that time, I have not taken one single vacation for myself. Yeah, I've just got my author copies of the third book in the Monster and Boy series. Hello art friends, my name is Anoosha Syed and I am a children's book author and illustrator and a character designer for animation. And I also do work for editorial and packaging and children's magazines and toy design. And I also run this YouTube channel and a Patreon. And I also sometimes have an online store and I do conventions. And after doing this all for about 6 years of my freelance career, I am severely burned out and art blocked. Yeah. I haven't posted in a little bit, and the main reason was that I was on vacation. And for some people, you know, that might not be a big deal, but it is for me because in my 6 years of freelancing, basically ever since I graduated from art school, I have not given myself a single vacation, which is crazy, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, I have had breaks, and that usually means that I might have some free time in between projects, or I might have some time when I'm waiting for feedback from a client. But I'm thankful that at this point in my career, like I'm not waiting too long between projects. It's usually like 1 to 3 weeks max. And it's not like when I have those little mini breaks, I'm not working on anything and I have free time. It's more so that the way that I work, I'm a workaholic, I tend to take on more than I can chew, and I'm usually working on 3 to 4 different things at a time. So if I'm not working on my major book projects, you know, I have like a little break in between or I'm waiting for feedback, I can't just sit back and relax. I've still got my Patreon and my YouTube to work on. I still have like editorial or book cover assignments to work on. Basically, I was doing this for 6 years and I found myself in a place where I kind of hated my job. And if you've been watching my videos, you could kind of see that like I do seem pretty stressed out and I do seem pretty overworked, but I also tend to like find myself trying other hobbies like creating earrings or like trying different media and things like that to try to reinvent myself or try to find some spark that was missing from art, because I found that I didn't really enjoy illustrating anymore. And so all of this stuff was going on and I couldn't really figure out why I was feeling this way or how to fix this cycle that I was in. And so what basically happened was that I had like a pretty horrible winter time experience. If you watch my last video, the life of a chaotic, stressful illustrator, I was pretty overworked for all of December and January, and it resulted in me just cracking. And my agent basically was like, girl, you need a break. And so what we had decided on, me very reluctantly, was that for the entire month of February, I am on vacation. I'm not working with any clients, I'm taking a chill pill, I'm just relaxing and taking it easy. The reason we chose February was that in the middle of February, me and my husband had booked our big honeymoon trip. We got married in September of 2020, so that was a little tiny while ago, and we had wanted to go on our honeymoon, but because of COVID and everything, we had to keep delaying it, and so finally we were able to settle on February. And so, yeah, my agent was like, okay, go on your trip, enjoy the rest of the month off. We are going to tell all of your clients that you are on a break. You're not going to work on any of the ongoing projects. You're not going to respond to any emails. And I knew that this February break was coming because like we had planned it back in October. And I was so stressed out because I didn't know what I was going to do with myself. Like I said, I'm a natural, not an alcoholic, I'm a natural workaholic. And I, usually when I do have that free time, I just feel like, I don't know what to do with myself. I'm going to find some work so I can do that because otherwise I'm going to feel very antsy and jittery and kind of restless. And so I was kind of dreading my little vacation, but it ended up being literally the best thing I've ever done in my life. And it's March now, and I am so much more relaxed, refreshed, and just like, I like drawing again. That's it. That spark that I was looking for, I found it. And yeah, basically in this video, I'm going to go over what I did for the past month, kind of talking about what I did, the kind of things that I went through, but also later on in this video, I'm going to do a big paint with me, painting like a beautiful, or in my opinion, like I thought it was nice. Anyway, painting a gouache piece. And while I do this draw with me, I'm going to talk about more in depth on why I did not take a break for so long, and kind of my feelings of like taking on more than you can chew, having trouble saying no to projects, and all of that good stuff, you know, like that big introspective kind of stuff. So yeah, let's get started. I hope this is kind of interesting for you guys. And so first off, let's talk about what I did this month so far. So starting from February 1st, basically the first couple of days, all I did was chilled out. I had just gone off of submitting 2 big projects at the end of January, a board book sketches as well as a graphic novel sketches. And so I needed that little break. So I took a couple of days of just chilling with my husband, meeting up with some friends, because things are starting to open up again in Canada. And so just had some good food and everything, chillaxy taxi. Once I had my fill of that and got bored, because I'm not good at relaxing, I got to work. So I know what you're thinking. Anoosha, you just said you're not working on this vacation. What is wrong with you? But let me tell you, I am not working with any clients this month. But one of my main goals for this month was to work on some of my personal book projects. So those of you who don't know, I've primarily been like illustrating other people's work. I've illustrated like 20 books so far. But finally, I have started writing and illustrating my own projects as well. So I wrote a book last year, which is coming out in July. It's called That's Not My Name. I'm super, super proud of it. It's like the best thing I've ever made so far. I'm like so thrilled about it. And I'm including a pre-order link below so you can get it and everything. Anyway, this was a 2-book deal that I had with Penguin Random House. And so I had to get to work on my second book. So way back in 2019 was when I started submitting my dummies. So I had submitted That's Not My Name as well as a second book dummy to my editor. And so after we finished That's Not My Name, we re-looked at that dummy. We'll just call it book 2 for now. We re-looked at the book 2 dummy, and I was like, this could use some work. I'm looking at it with fresh eyes after a couple of years, and my editor very much agreed. She had a lot of notes. And so in this first week of my little vacation, I had to rewrite my original manuscript and try to fix up a lot of issues that it had. With That's Not My Name, it's very much a personal story. It's very much like a story with a message and a moral. It's very much rooted in like culture and stuff like that. And so that's like a lot of the work that I do. Most of the books that I work on are that kind of message stories. But I want to do more comedy books. And I definitely feel like I've been pigeonholed into this message book cubbyhole, you know. And so for my second book, I really wanted to be a funny book. And so in these rewrites, I'm trying to really up on the comedy. And I've just submitted these new rewrites to my editor, and hopefully it's all good, and we'll see. The second work-related thing that I wanted to work on is my third book. So this is a book that I want to try to submit to publishers by summer, so we'll see how that goes. But I had this idea for a book, again, very personal, something very much related to my childhood, and I had this idea swimming in my brain for the past couple of months, but I just did not have any time to work on it, to figure out what like the characters would be, even like what the basic story would be. And so again, because I had all of this free time in February, I spent that first week just working on that manuscript. I didn't write like a full manuscript. It was basically just a summary, but I wanted to get all my thoughts down and again submit it to my agent. And so that's why I want to preface, I didn't consider these 2 books work because with my author illustrator books, I definitely feel like this is something that's more of a passion project, because I have full creative control, because it's like I'm writing and illustrating it, and it's like entirely my own vision. It's something that like I actively enjoy and I wanted to make time for. And so that's why I was totally okay with doing this work during my vacation, because I didn't just consider this vacation as like a relaxation period, but also like I had this big goal that by the end of the month, I wanted to change as an artist. And so this is where we get to like the second part of my journey in this month. Like I said, I had been feeling like really creatively kaput for a while now, where like I just was not happy with the work that I was creating. I definitely felt really stagnant. And I think partly that was due to the fact that like I was working on projects like back to back to back. And I found that like my style hadn't really changed in a while, and not even just my style, but like my skill level. Definitely on the books I was working on, I was kind of playing it safe. I was creating work that like was very commercial and like I liked it, but like I definitely wanted to do something that was a little bit different. But I felt that like whenever I tried to do something different, I would usually be told like, you know, this is a little bit weird, this is a little bit too much. Let's go back to what you're usually known for. So that was one thing. And then the other thing was that I was kind of getting tired of digital art. Like digital art is totally valid. Like I'm gonna be always the first one to say that, but there's something about holding a piece of artwork in your hand. And so last year, you might have seen in my vlogs, I was working with clay. I was trying to make a scarf, which is still unfinished, and just trying to play around with like 3D art, because there is something different about like actually using your hands. Does that make sense? I'm not trying to belittle digital art in any way, but you know what I mean. But the problem was that I just completely forgot how. I had no idea. Like anytime I tried to illustrate something traditionally, it would just look like garbage, and I would be so frustrated by it that I would just completely stop. And so the reason, apart from the fact that I was really trying to get back, you know, reset my brain and everything and try something new, for this third book that I want to pitch, when I was writing my manuscript down and like when I was coming up with this idea, it would only really work if it was illustrated traditionally. Something about like the message, something about the theme that I felt like it was really important that like if I did it in digital art, it would just not do it justice. It should be done by traditional paint. But the problem is that my traditional painting skills are yucky. Like I don't have those skills at all. I've been a digital artist for like 6 years now. And so yeah, like my goal was that by the end of this month, I wanted to relearn how to paint. And again, you've seen in my past vlogs where like any attempt that I've made at traditional painting, it just like does not last. I have bought so many different sketchbooks where I'm like, yes, I'm going to be a sketchbook girl now. I'm gonna be like drawing, I'm gonna be exploring. And then I'll draw on like 2 pages and then I'll get super frustrated and think it's ugly and that I ruined it. And then, you know, that's it. I'm never drawing in the sketchbook again. And so it kind of went like that for a couple of months. And like, I would get this urge that like, I want to paint, but I'm just so scared. Does that make sense? Like I would buy all these materials. Like a couple of months ago, I bought these acrylic ink from the PH Martin Bombay acrylic ink. That they had just been sitting in my little drawers for months and months because I was too scared to use them. There was something about like, and I talked about this on my Patreon, where like, it's kind of like if you are a musician, you know, maybe you are an excellent trombone player, you know, you're great at it, you've been doing it for years, and then you want to try playing the clarinet. So you know how to read sheet music, you kind of understand the basics of it, but once you actually try playing the clarinet, it sounds like poo-poo garbage. And so there's something about like the frustration where you have like a very innate image in your mind of what you want to create, and you kind of know what to do, but like your body betrays you and it's not able to create those things. Because what I was kind of failing to understand was every medium, you do have to learn the little intricacies of it. Because like when you're painting, it's not just that like, it's not enough that I know how the colors should be, how the perspective, whatever, you know, I know how to draw, but like there is technique to be learned with watercolor, you know, how the water affects the paint, how you should be holding your brush, how like each brush has like a different texture that it creates and like how it interacts with different paints and etc, etc. And so that was something that I had to relearn. I don't know, I was just so scared. I was really scared of like making mistakes and making things that looked ugly. And so when I talked to my friends who are traditional painters, they were like, girl, what are you scared of? Just look, just girl, listen. Because I was like, I don't even know where to begin. Like, where do I even start? And so they just told me, girl, just start. Just do it. Don't be scared. You need to be okay with making mistakes. Because as I believe it was Jake the dog from Adventure Time said something like, you have to be okay with being bad at something for a while, because it's the only way you're going to end up being like half good at something. It's something like that. I can't remember the quote. And so that's what I did. What I started off doing was I downloaded a bunch of Domestika courses. Domestika is a pretty good resource for finding artist-led mini workshops. I have like a code that you can use below. I'm an affiliate, so if you want to check that out, you could. I think you can get 10% off. But anyway, they had a sale going on, so I bought like 10 different courses, and I was like, I'm going to learn. I'm going to learn so much. So these are the courses that I ended up taking. I will say that I haven't tried all of them, so I can't really give my strong recommendation on anything yet, but these are the ones that I'm taking. I'm hoping to learn lots and lots and lots. So that is what I did in my first 12 days of vacation, where I went onto Domestika. I was following these courses and I was just trying to understand like the very basics of paint, just like relearning. And I did like those really beginner exercises of making color wheels and playing around with the gradients and just doing like the wet on wet, dry on dry, whatever, all of those like little exercises to familiarize myself with like how these materials work. And I kept doing like these little baby exercises for days and days and days because I was too scared to take the next step. But finally I was like, you know what, I can't, you know, I just have, at some point I just have to paint. And so that's when I painted this little still life piece. So I think this is a pretty good resource if you check out Still Here, Still Life on Instagram. Every week they have like a really cute little still life that artists around the world can draw and submit. And it's just really fun. It's a good way to, if you can't think of anything else to draw, you can just draw one of these little still lifes, and they have like a pretty long catalog. And so I made this. This was a combination of gouache as well as color pencils. And I have like a little bit of issues with it. I tried to stylize this, and definitely like when I look at it, I'm like, ugh, I could have done this so much more differently if I did it on digital. But for a first painting, I don't think I did too bad. Anyway, I made this painting and then I was like, should I do more easy exercises? No, I'm just gonna paint. Damn it, I'm just gonna make like my next big painting. And so this was something that I had wanted to do for a while, was to create a series of paintings based on my culture, which is I'm Pakistani, and so I wanted to create a series of paintings dealing with fashion as well as like cultural patterns, drawing things like rickshaws and carpets and textiles and all of that. And this was the second painting I made. This is also a combination of gouache as well as some of the acrylic ink that I used for the borders, and finally some color pencils. And so the process for this piece was that I started off doing a digital sketch, also planning out my colors digitally, and then finally painting it out. I will say that I'm not like 100% happy with this one, and then I scanned it up and made some digital alterations just to bring it closer to what I had in my head. So you can see the difference between these two. I tried to fix the face a little bit to match the original sketch and cleaned up little bits and bobs. But I did try to make sure I didn't overcorrect the piece, because one thing that I tried to remind myself was that when I am illustrating digitally, you'll notice that I have a style where I try to mimic traditional painting as much as possible. And so to do that, I'll try to add in mistakes, you know, like little paint bleeds and little rough edges and paint flecks and whatever. I felt that those mistakes made it look more real. And then so when I was painting traditionally and getting mad at myself for like, oh, I have all of these weird mistakes, it doesn't look right, it looks too rough, I'm gonna fix it on the computer, I had to remind myself, like, I am actively creating those mistakes in digital media. Why are you so obsessed with fixing it when you're working traditionally? Think about that, right? For my second painting, I wanted to try to mix it up a little bit, and I was a little bit mad at myself for creating a painted color rough for the previous illustration. I was like, you know what? The pros don't do that. The pros just like figure out the colors as they're painting it. And so I did do a digital sketch, but then I figured that I could just like paint and figure out the colors as I was doing it. And so I did that, and then my first attempt at it was garbage. I was like, these colors don't make any sense at all. This looks horrible. What am I doing wrong? I feel like a fraud. And so I went back to my traditional painting friends and I was like, how do you guys figure out colors as you're doing it? Like, what am I doing wrong? And they're like, girl, you know, we don't like figure it out as we go. We do plan our colors beforehand. Like it's totally fine if you're planning your colors digitally and making a little sketch. That's perfectly valid. It doesn't make you any less of an artist. And so that's what I did. I made a color sketch, which you can see over here, and then I redid my painting, and this is how it came out. Again, I wasn't like super 100% happy with it, and so I did have to make some digital alterations, and so side-by-side comparison, you can see how it turned out. I only did 2 paintings at this time, and then I had to go on my honeymoon. So I will plan to make a separate video on my honeymoon. I really wanted to take a travel sketchbook with me because I was really starting to enjoy traditional painting more and more. I was slowly starting to get the hang of it, but I wasn't fully there on sketchbooking yet. That was like something that like I absolutely wanted to get the habit of because all of my favorite artists kept a sketchbook. It definitely felt like a really good way to express yourself and to plan out ideas and explore yourself creatively and all of that. But that was something that like I felt like I couldn't really do, and I felt like I was way too in my head whenever I tried to draw anything. And so I was like, you know what? We're going to Costa Rica. It would be a really good idea if I brought a travel sketchbook with me, and then if I had the time, I'll draw. And I did. So again, like I said, I'll make a separate video right after this one, which will be a tour of my travel sketchbook. So you can see a little bit more of like what my process was there. But here are like a couple of pages as a little sneak peek. So we were gone for a week. We came back. I was definitely feeling super recharged. Like having that change of scenery really helped as well. And also just being able to draw in that sketchbook. I definitely, because I was drawing pretty much every day, like 2 hours a day in my sketchbook, I found that like I had rewired that like skill that I completely forgot that I had. And I just could not wait to draw my sketchbook again. So when I came back, me and my husband, we finally put up that gallery wall that we had been trying to do for ages and ages and ages. I think it turned out really well. I'll just say that in the middle, that's our wedding photo. I also have my wedding bouquet dried up there, as well as art from Sophie Diao and Janine Burrows, both who I love very, very much. The other thing was that while I was gone, the 3rd book of the Monster & Boy series came out, and I got my author copies. Amazing. So yeah, I just got my author copies of the 3rd book in the Monster & Boy series, The Sister Surprise. This is the last book. Yeah, this was like absolutely so much fun to work on, and I am so thankful for Mallory Grigg for bringing me onto this project. 3 books in 3 years, I think. I can't believe that's all over. I don't know if we're gonna have more books in the series in the future, but in any case, this was like a pleasure, absolute pleasure to work on. So yeah, they've sent me over, I believe, like 25 copies, a bunch of them over here, as well as, so it turns out I never got my copies for book 2, so you can see those here, Monster & Boy and Monster's First Day of School, that's what it is. I really like the cover illustration I did over here. They sent me 5 books when this came out, and I guess I had assumed that that's all I was gonna get, but yeah, I got more, and I literally have no idea where I'm gonna put all of them. Currently, I have like this little wicker bookshelf where I keep most of my author illustrator books. Otherwise, I think these unfortunately are gonna have to go into storage because I don't know where they're gonna go. But I am planning to do, because I've been waiting until all of the books are finished, I wanted to do a how I illustrate chapter books. And then do like a whole thing on my process for working on this book series. So if you have any questions on what that was like, please let me know. And actually, let me give you a little sneak peek into what this looks like inside. Beautiful yellow cover. For every book they change. Oh, what did I write in here? Oh, it's for my little baby cousins. Yeah, for every book we decide on a different interior color. So the first book was blue, this was orange, this is green. Absolutely love this page, so much farting involved. I'm gonna give you no context on any of these illustrations. I believe I had to do like 90 illustrations in total. It's usually around like 80 to 90 illustrations for each book. Thankfully, because this is a pretty simple style, you know, black and white plus maybe a third color, I can turn them out pretty quickly, like 3 a day. But anyway, yeah, I'm super pleased that these are finally here. After I came back, I was like pretty conked out. I just needed a break, and so in that time, I just played video games. I was playing Pokemon, I was chillaxing. I went out to a coffee shop and I drew with my friend Haley. That was really nice. I did try to draw as much as I could, but with the intention of like not trying to create perfect work and just making things that made me happy, and trying to also draw from life as much as possible, because that was also something that I had not done in a while. And then finally, I was like, okay, it's the end of the month. On February 27th, I was like, you know what, let's try to squeeze in one last painting before March comes and I'm back to work and just super overworked again. And so now we are going to see my process and how I painted that piece. Just as an overview, I was using the Canson watercolor paper. I was using a combination of Arteza gouache as well as Holbein designer gouache and some color pencils, as well as the Bombay India ink from Dr. P.H. Martins. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little intro onto the Draw With Me portion. Hello, art friends. It's me, your girl, Anoosha, again. This is me talking from voiceover land out into the future. And I thought it could be kind of interesting if I talked about my process for how I've been illustrating this series. So first of all, you can see in my little sketchbook that I have here, I've just been trying to record and explore some possible ideas, and definitely you can see that they're not super clean at all. Some of them are yucky, I don't like, but you know, 1 or 2 of them are not too bad. And so if I like an idea, then will try to clean it up as best as I can and redraw it on my iPad. I am using an iPad Pro, using the app Procreate, and I believe the brush that I like for sketching is the gouache detail brush from Bardo Brush. And I know I get a lot of people asking about this. The stand that I'm using is freaking amazing. I have like a link to it below if you wanted to get it. I love it so much. I mean, you might be wondering like, why don't I just sketch this out traditionally, especially if I've just been doing explorations in my sketchbook anyway. Personally, like I said before, I'm still a digital artist at heart, and I just find it a lot easier to clean up this sort of stuff on the iPad, just so that, because in this planning stage I'm still figuring things out, I'm able to resize things, I'm able to edit, change things around, move things around, which you can't really do in, you know, like a traditional drawing. And so I just find it a lot more intuitive for the planning stage. And speaking of planning stage, you're gonna see that when I'm illustrating these paintings, I'm not very spontaneous, and since I'm very nitpicky and not very go with the flow, I find that I need to plan every single part. So once I'm done with my initial sketch, I have to do the color rough. As you saw for my painting number 2, I tried to go the spontaneous route and just do my colors as is. That didn't work out, so we are back to planning my colors beforehand. In terms of like how I pick my colors, I don't really have like any rhyme or reason to it, except that I knew for this one I wanted to work specifically with the colors blue and yellow. Mostly because I saw an outfit that was blue and yellow and I was like, that's cute, I like that color combination. But now, obviously, there are a billion different types of blues and yellows, and I also want to figure out how I'm going to arrange everything, what are the accompanying colors. But anyway, once I had figured out my color sketch, it was time to transfer my sketch over to my paper. As I said, I'm using a Canson watercolor paper, and because I don't have a light box yet, I literally just put my paper over my iPad and drew over it. You can do that. It's not super ideal, and if I start painting bigger paintings, I'm gonna need to get a light box, but for now it worked. And then I'm also using a Colorase red pencil. So then I get my little paper, I tape it down to my desk. I know some people will, they'll stretch their paper out, but I'm not gonna do that, so that's okay. Here we have my little setup. This is my little teeny tiny desk from FlexiSpot, which I absolutely love, but my gosh, guys, I really want my own studio. We're in a one-bedroom apartment in Toronto right now, and I am itching for some more space. I would absolutely love to have my own studio space one day, and we'll see about that, because right now it's definitely cramped. But anyway, I start off with doing a little wash with my Bombay India ink for the background. I kind of found that for the background and for the framing, it's better to use the acrylic ink because it's waterproof, and then I can paint on top of it later if I need to, whereas the gouache that I have, it's not acrylic gouache, it's the regular gouache, so if I try to paint on top of it, it becomes a mess. So anyway, that's why I prefer the India ink, and also it's just so vivid. It's just like the brightest colors in the world. Also, I would need to preface this. When I was painting, I had washed my hair, so you can see my little towel, my hair towel, come in once in a while. I apologize for that. It looks really silly, but what can you do? And then again, you can see me using the yellow ink, but to add a bit of dimension, I added a little bit of orange in there too. I just thought it would give it a little bit of oomph, And again, using acrylic ink because I plan to do a little border of flowers around that frame. It's much better, it's a lot easier if it is waterproof. For the brushes, I don't really have anything special, just a bunch of dollar store cheap brushes. Eventually I'll invest in some better ones, but for now they're doing the job. And then here I'm going in with my paints. Yeah, nothing really too special around here. I'm mostly using the Arteza paints and then a couple of Holbeins and one Winston & Newton. Just whatever fits my fancy, But yeah, you're pretty much gonna see me paint and paint and paint. My least favorite part is color mixing, which is a absolute bore, but I'm slowly learning, so it's okay. But anyway, at this point you can kind of guess how my process is going. I'm just going area by area and then starting with a lower base layer and then painting on top of it. So I'm just gonna get this section out of the way and then talk about the more introspective stuff. So let's talk about why I had not taken a single vacation in 6 years. So to give some context, I went to art school in 2011 to 2015, graduated, and then immediately went into my freelance career. And I did that for 6 years, and yep, not a single vacation. I had a couple of breaks in between projects, but don't really count those as vacations because I would still normally end up working on them. And it's a lot harder when you have an iPad and work is just so much more portable and you're not going into an office, you're talking to clients on the computer. So it's just like very, you can take your work with you everywhere. And I think it's especially harder when it's a job that you actually sort of kind of enjoy, because it doesn't sometimes feel like work. But anyway, I did want to say that I had tried one time before to take a vacation, and that was in September 2020. I had planned this a couple of months prior, and the reason I wanted a vacation then was because it was my wedding, and I wanted to take like a full month off so that I wouldn't be too stressed for the little time leading up to it and then have a little break right after. And I had kind of cleared out my schedule except for one or two things. But you know what happened was that right before I was supposed to take my vacation, I got an inquiry from an animation studio, and they were asking me like, hey, would you want to do some full-time work for us? Would you want to be a lead designer on this cool new TV show? And normally, with my freelance career, I would not have been able to take on full-time work. But because I had dismissed all of my clients and made a little bit of break for myself, I had the capacity to take on a full-time job. And it was a really cool opportunity, and I was like, okay, sure, I'll make time for it. I know it's my wedding and everything, but I'll do it. And it was like a short-term thing, but still. And this kind of leads into like my first point, is that I had a really, really hard time with saying no. I think this is especially like a really tricky problem that faces a lot of artists, especially when they're first starting out. First, it comes from survival. When you're first starting out, you are wanting to take as many jobs as you possibly can so that you can propel your career forward, so that you have enough money for living your life and everything, and to build up your client base and so on. So you kind of feel like you need to take on all of this work and not say no to projects. But then as your career develops and you start getting this influx of cool projects with cool pay, you still have like that scarcity mentality in your head, and you feel the need to accept all these projects because you don't want to miss out on those opportunities, or you're scared that if you say no, they won't come back to you again. And so that kind of became like the little problem I was having, which I guess is a good problem to have, but a couple of years ago, I was in that little weird spot where I was getting contacted for work, and I felt like I had to take it on. I felt really weird about saying no to projects because, what if I say no to this, then what? Will I never get hired by this client again? Or if I say no to this, what if I'm missing out on a really great opportunity that could be like changing my career forever? And so I think I did mention this in my pricing video, is that eventually you do want to get to a point where you don't want to take on so much work. Instead, you're taking on less work for more pay, So I did eventually need to get into that mindset of what the pros are doing. They're not working on like a billion projects in a year. They're really only working on two books max. And then just freaking chilling. And so I definitely did make a big difference in my workload in the past 2-3 years, where beforehand I would be working on 4 or 5 books in a single year and a billion other projects, and just absolutely wearing myself thin. But now I think I work on maybe 2 books at a time. But it's also good because now I can finally pay attention to my projects and give myself proper time instead of always feeling like I'm in an absolute crunch. One other thing I wanted to talk about was the fact that, as I mentioned, for a while I was absolutely hating my job. Pretty much for all of last year, I was sick of illustrating. I was doing everything that I possibly could to not illustrate and just work on other things. So that's why I became super active on YouTube and trying out Patreon and working on my online store and trying out different hobbies and things, because illustrating books just made me really frustrated. And that was partially due to the fact that like I was unhappy with all of the work that I was creating. I felt that like I had not really improved or evolved much as an artist. I felt like my work was really bland. I wasn't really going anywhere. I kept getting contacted for the same types of stories and really being pigeonholed into the South Asian big message story, whatever. I've talked about this in the past, but it's definitely a problem that marginalized creators have. But anyway, I was just like really unhappy with the work I was creating, and it really wasn't helping with the pandemic and feeling burnt out and just like honestly really lonely, because freelancing is just such a lonely career. And I was like, I don't have like any artists around me. I don't know like who to talk to about this. This feels weird. This sucks. And I really wanted to take classes in the city, but everything was shut down. I wanted to prove as an artist, but I had no idea how. And so what had like made a really big change was that late last year, I had joined a little Discord group of a bunch of other children's book illustrators. And a lot of them are traditional illustrators as well. So I joined that group, and it was really nice. I was able to talk with other people in my community, and we were able to like help each other out, uplift each other. And so if you're able to, guys, I definitely recommend joining some kind of community, talking to other illustrators, if in your area if possible. I hear that SCBWI is a really good resource for that kind of stuff. But besides the point, seeing these other artists like doing their thing, it like kind of like clicked something new in my brain of like wanting to kind of like honestly impress them. Having that competition aspect was really helpful, but also like seeing their work and being super inspired by them, and just having a place to talk about my concerns. And so it became like a really big kickstart to my creativity of seeing new types of artists and like new inspiration and everything. And so one big thing that made a difference was them mentioning to me what their process for illustrating books are like. And so they talked about how much like planning goes into it, and how they keep sketchbooks for their books, and how they have like a whole exploration thing where they try out different styles and they try out different techniques, and they'll really like mess around with these things. And I was like kind of thinking to myself like, wow, for my books, I don't really do any of that. I think a really great example of this is Rebecca Green. Like if you check out her Patreon, if you check out her blog post, she really goes in depth on, she spends so much time on the planning process before she even begins a book. When I was thinking of my own projects, I realized that I've never really done any of that for any of my books. And that's largely because I've been kind of unfortunate in that for a lot of the books, pretty much all of the books that I've worked on in my career, I haven't been given a sufficient amount of time to explore. Because I'm a digital artist and just kind of unlucky scheduling, I've usually been given like 4 months to work on a book. And so that's just not enough time at the beginning to have that kind of exploratory stage. Instead, I have to dive straight into the initial sketches, and that doesn't leave enough room for exploration. Now, I'm more lucky in that the projects that I'm starting to get now as a more prolific artist, I'm getting like 6 months to a full year. And so now I have a lot more time to explore and everything. And so with this full month that I've had for vacation time, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna try to do some exploration for my own book and just kind of reset, relax, and just, I'm not working on other clients' projects. I'm just gonna work on myself. And so having that time, my God, it like really, really helped, because I was able to like play around and make mistakes. Again, something I usually never have time for, or I'm too insecure about to do, because social media, you're trying to make your work all pretty for the cameras. And looking back at this month now, I'm now looking at my work in a completely different new way of, instead of just focusing on the final product, I definitely, because I find myself rushing to the finish line, to think of my work as a journey and to apply myself in all aspects of it, and especially the beginning portion, and allowing myself to have that time to explore and get messy and not try like the first idea that I think of, and just keep working at it and trying to push myself, because again, like I said, I definitely found myself in a rut of just sticking to what's safe, sticking to what feels natural to me and like my usual regular style, when I should be
trying to beat myself, and trying to get myself better and better and trying new things and exploring. And so definitely for my next few books now, I'm definitely going to change how I work. For example, my friend Leanne, she is a really great picture book artist, super, super talented. She told me that she creates a new sketchbook for every single book that she works on. And I thought that was a great idea, and I'm going to start doing that too. And so I've decided that because this month was so successful, I'm going to make this a yearly thing. I don't know which month it's going to be. It's probably going to change every year, but I'm going to dedicate a whole month of just chilling and taking a vacation and just working on myself. And I think this is really important because another thing that I forgot to mention is that not only was I sick of illustrating books, I was also just sick of drawing in general, because I would spend all day drawing for clients and drawing for other people, and by the time it was time to relax, the day is over, I did not want to draw. I did not want to pick up a pencil or do anything. I wanted to just eat, play video games, and look at my phone. And that was really depressing. And I think I mentioned this in my previous sketchbook tour, where I was looking at the sketchbooks that I made when I was in art school. And I was just like, wow, I was so much more imaginative and creative and just more exploratory back then, and that I loved drawing in my personal time. And where did that go? And I was trying to think about it. I was trying to figure out why I hated drawing so much. And now I know, because I was so severely burnt out. I was just obviously I was working myself thin with all of these different projects. And so of course by the end of the day, I don't have any creative energy left for myself. So that's the other thing. I'm also going to try to decrease my workload as much as I can. I don't know why I keep taking on projects, and it's definitely, I think, I don't know. I was kind of scared that I would get restless and whatever when I don't have anything to do. But with this month, I've kind of learned that I am able to take it easy breezy once in a while. And so I'm going to try to take some things off my plate. As you know, I've already stopped my online store last year. But definitely when I have new projects coming in, when I have inquiries or whatever, I will learn to say no once in a while. So that's definitely one thing. And I'll try to make time for myself of just drawing for myself and not caring if it's ugly, not caring if it's messy, and just making things personally just for me, my eyes only, and all of that. And I think it's important to make that time for yourself, even if it's not 1 month in a year. Maybe just one day of the week, even if it's just 1 hour in a week. I'm going to try to make that commitment to make that time for myself, because if I feel if I don't make that commitment, I'm just never going to do it. But anyway, that was a long-winded talk, but basically all I wanted to say is it's important to take breaks. It's important to take care of yourself. And if you're feeling like you're burnt out and art blocked, my suggestion is that I take a break if you can. Step out of just get yourself out of the headspace of drawing for a little bit, and definitely try to absorb some new inspiration. Try watching different movies, try different mediums, and be okay with making mistakes and just playing around, and don't feel the pressure of having to create something that looks perfect. And then hopefully eventually it'll slowly trickle back into you. And when it comes to, if you're like me and you're kind of scared to try a new medium, just do it. That's all the advice I can give to you, because that's what worked. Don't be scared. Just set some time out for yourself and be okay with making ugly stuff until it starts to get a little bit better. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this little video, this little chatty stream. If you have any questions, please let me know. If you have had any instances similar to mine, please let me know. And I'm going to come back to you with some crazy new videos in the future. I have one planned for my travel sketchbook. I have one planned for my chapter book series, and then one educational one all about contracts. So if you have any questions on what to put in a contract or how they work, etc., please let me know. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, I'm at foxville_art. I'm on Patreon as well. Links below. If you want to pre-order my book, That's Not My Name, link below. And anyway, that's it. Thank you guys for watching. Drink water, take breaks, look after yourself, and if you're filming yourself while you're drawing, make sure you don't have a towel on your head. Okay, bye!